a lot of people are looking for ways to maximize their time. We want to give you some tools, kind of give you ways to feel accomplished and to feel like you are checking things off your list and you are getting some things done because you are. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
Welcome back, guys. I'm Rachel. Have you tried? Okay, I know we're not supposed to be.
Are you a Starbucks ad?
It's so stupid.
Have you tried?
No, I know.
Not associated by Starbucks in any way.
But would love to be. Send gift cards now, please. No, especially because I just gave all the teachers,
Oh, is that what you did?
Yeah. Well, because I don't know. You don't know what people like
out there.
Hey, stay caffeinated. There's only one thing that is kind of universal that people like, and that's fucking caffeine. So, yeah, I do all the Starbucks gift cards. So if Starbucks wants to go ahead and sponsor me, that'd be great. But I know we're not supposed to be doing the, artificial flavors. Guys, I get Starbucks once a week. So just let me live my life. But have you tried the caramel brulee? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my God.
Sounds delicious. I have not tried it. But here's what I would say about your once a week thing. Listen, it brings you joy. This is what I say in my house all the time. Don't bother me. It brings me joy.
Don't bother me.
It brings me joy. It's like there's no rebuttal when someone says like, this brings me joy. Like, what are you going to say back? No, it doesn't. It shouldn't.
We're having that argument about candles right now in my house because Mark's been fighting me for years on candles, and it's not good for you. Full whatever, like fake smells, and it's not good for you to be breathing in. And I'm like, yeah, I know that, but it brings me joy. So I've gone the cleanest of clean candles. I get like the organic, like soy, like all the things, so clean, but he's still going around blowing up my candles. And I tried that line. I said, like, listen, it brings me joy. He's like, yeah, but we don't all want to die because we're breathing that in. I'm like, you're so dramatic. He's the most dramatic. He's the most dramatic.
Oh, he's the most dramatic.
But you can't take my creme brulee. Take it out of my cold, dead fingers.
You can blow out my candle, but you can't take my creme brulee.
They'll never take my creme brulee.
You're really fighting the man over there.
You know
what? Here's a couple things that I'll say to you guys that have just, that these are phrases that I use. It brings me joy. I haven't found anyone who's had a good enough rebuttal to that. And if you get a bunch of packages that come like all the time, number one is you live here too, right? Because if it's for the house, it's for everybody.
Okay? I mean, technically. Listen, you don't know if there's toothpaste in there. There might be toothpaste in there. There's silky pajamas. I'm just joking. But there might be toothpaste.
Listen.
What do you know about it?
You live here too, right? And these leggings or whatever, they bring me joy. And don't you want me to feel joy strutting around this house? Because I'm a better person when I feel joy, and therefore you get to exist without me being a raging bitch.
I mean, listen, me not being a raging bitch is in exchange for $60. Come on, that's an easy one. That's an easy one.
Would pay for that.
I'm saying.
So there's this other thing. What's going on in the world? But here's something that I wanted to talk about that I have felt like has just been an important topic that I just wanted to throw out to all the mamas out there. So, pregnancy is a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. And there's been a lot that's been brought to my attention with different language that has been mostly hurtful, harmful. And then
That's the one the
trying to,
brain remembers most,
it's
to
the one
be
the brain
fair.
remembers most. But even the complimentary ones I feel are hurtful, harmful. And I've tried to like think of ways and alternatives that we can like talk about this in a way that's helpful, because I feel like there's such a stigma around pregnancy if you're doing it right, if you're doing it wrong. And we do it to ourselves, we do it to each other. And it's so hard to find kind of like that complimentary language without it being harmful, because it's
Here's the good
bodies.
news. Here's the good news. I think that this will be the last week that you feel any of the pregnancy shame, because I'm pretty sure we're going to meet our friend this week. I just have a feeling.
Oh, wow.
So I just want to say that you're at the end of that, but
It's the next stage is
yeah,
still.
you're just going to get
Yeah.
into
Yeah,
so
I'm
then
like
it's mom shame.
the next stage is
So there's
the
pregnancy
next level of
shame,
shame.
then there's mom shame, and then yeah,
Bounce
you
back
just,
culture.
oh yeah,
So I'm armed on bounce back culture
good to
for
know,
myself and
good
my
to
mental
hear.
health, because I am a human too, and I'm susceptible to the whole idea of looking at your body and being able to pick it apart and saying, are you coming back fast enough? And I just want to throw this like idea out there of like, you have created, or if you're someone, created a whole life, a
A
whole
whole ass
life
life.
that did not exist on the planet before. And your body did that. And the fact that we even insert any discussion around what it looked like when it did that and then afterwards is bizarre. It's bizarro land.
Bizarro land.
And
It's
I
like,
just like
what do you look like when you're doing miracles? Who the freaking hell cares?
like what, right? Like you are out of nothing. Like you just created this whole life, and it's just so it just is quite the explanation of what we do to women and what the expectations are, because you literally created life. And even when people are trying to compliment, a lot of people are trying to compliment me on, how pregnancy has gone for me, but I want to say, I think it's important for me to say, because I'm sitting from a place of privilege where I've had a really lucky pregnancy so far. I've been able to work out. I felt really good. And I consider that to be a place of privilege. And
You know, the first time I ever heard of like, and now I forget what it is, but there was a celebrity, I think it was Amy Schumer. There was a celebrity who had that condition in which they throw up the whole entire time, the whole 9 months. I
yeah.
forget what it's called, but it was the first time I had ever been exposed to the fact that that even existed. And
Mm.
I was like, holy shit, I need to sit in my privilege right now.
Yes. I need to sit
Because 9 months of getting sick, like after every meal, is like, holy
wow.
moly.
10 months, so essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, right, essentially. Let me just sit here in my privilege and just drink this in that did not happen to me. And it was the first
Yes.
time I ever heard of it.
Yeah. And just being able to recognize it out loud. So some of the things that people have said to me has been like, look at you, you've been so fit throughout their pregnancy. I think people just use pregnancy as an excuse to eat whatever they want and be lazy and whatever. And I have clapped back on that so hard, because just because I have been able to, and this works for me in my life, to be able to continue fitness, and I haven't had a lot of like cravings with foods, things like that. I'm not an excuse for you to shame someone else for how they created a fucking life. Like this is wild to me. Like
It's so
absolutely not. Full
wild. What were
stop.
you were waiting in the background to like criticize people who you felt like didn't do it the way you wanted them to do it? But you've been waiting,
I've
and now
only
you're
heard
going
it
to
from
use
men too.
me?
Oh, no, no,
Oh
no. I actually
my
did hear it from
God.
women who hadn't been pregnant yet.
Mm.
I wanted to say
Yeah.
that. So I was like, wait a minute, this, uh, hold on here. But I just wanted to, because I know women do that to themselves too. If they see an example of someone else, how they feel like has done it better or has done it differently than they say, I should have done this, I should have worked out, I should have ate healthier, whatever. You were making a whole life, and that you have now been able to, maybe your kids are 10 or 12, maybe they're 25, maybe they're in their 30s, but that person you created during this time, and the fact that we're like even having any discussion around what your body looked like during that time is bizarre.
You know
Whatever
what
my
else?
body needs to do during this time, I'm here for it. What do
You
you
know what
need?
else I wanted to point out too, that was like, um for people who might have gone, you know what, this is a time where I have lived in diet culture my whole entire life of
Great point.
restrict, binge, have all of these feelings and episodes and things around food. And for once, I have a very short period of time where no one is expecting me to be thin. And it's like, I just want to talk about the psychological aspects of why some people might like go in a certain direction of like, I'm going to eat things I wouldn't normally eat. I'm not going to move as much as I would normally move, because think
I
about,
need a freaking break.
it's a break is what it is. It's like
While
one,
your actually body is running a marathon every day. So the break,
but it's not a break.
the
Nothing
equivalent
about it's a
is
break.
literally your body is like running a marathon every day.
But it's almost like a mental, it's a mental, like you get to go off on a side veer from like all of the expectations of society for just 1 second, even though they're still all there, because like you said, people are in the backgrounds and they're judging how the experience should go.
Yeah.
Um, but it's, I just want to point out that I totally hear the fact of, hey, can I like scoot out from diet culture for like a couple months? I'ma do that.
Yeah.
and and I just want to like make space for that, because I think that that is not only acceptable, but it's a normal reaction. And I think that one of the reasons that people don't go that route is because they have escaped from diet culture prior to their
Yes.
pregnancy. And so they don't have that innate need to like be bad while they're pregnant, because there's no such thing as being good and bad anymore. And they already worked that shit out. And hey, like, let's hear it for, a pregnancy later, a little later in life, because look at all you've learned.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean,
Right? 25-year-old you might
imagine
not.
if this was 25-year-old me. I probably
Mhm.
would have obsessed over food. I would have looked at how much weight I was gaining. I have no
Mhm.
idea. I went in and I saw some ladies I hadn't seen in a little bit, that were at Matt's work, and they were like, oh, oh, you look so amazing, blah blah blah. Like, what have you haven't gained that much during your pregnancy? How much weight have you gained? I said, I don't know, because I don't look during my appointments. I ask them not to tell me. And now we have an understanding, so I don't have to say it every time. And I don't look. I genuinely have no idea, because that's irrelevant to me. It's not helpful in any way, and I only found it harmful. So I told them, stop telling, don't say that out loud. It's not helpful for me. But I have barriers.
What a
Imagine
good
25-year-old Kelsey trying to do
I
that.
know. She would have had to laugh and go, "I'm not
And
sure." And
obsess over it the whole,
yep.
like,
Yep. It's but like it's not even just an age thing, because
yeah,
there are, we can get girls to a place at 25 where where they'll have a barrier and say like, no, I know. And we can also see women at 65 who are still struggling.
yeah,
It's really just a mindset. And that's, I think that's the whole point of the podcast. That's the whole point of the company. That's the whole point of everything we do, which
yeah.
is to try to break that down. But you're right that it's so prevalent in pregnancy, and it does feel like such a privilege to be able to have broken free from that mentality prior to this, because the experience could have been so much different. And it was so much different for many of the women that are listening.
Yeah. And I think they're looking back and they're feeling different about it. So I just want to be able to like shed some light on that when you see, other people who are having some type of like they're having an ideal or like a fit, pregnancy, whatever. Like, can we just pause for a second on the ideal is literally whatever you could do during the time that you were able to create a whole life. Like,
Whatever you could
that's
do,
it.
whatever you could give to
Whatever
it.
you could do. And if that required a ton of rest, if that required some deviation or some break from diet culture, if that required you to just like totally feel like you were just like, you know what? I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm not going to move. Like, this is what I need during that time. Great. You're creating a fucking life and we're not going to judge how you do that.
Nope.
Like,
That's what we're
it's
not going to do.
wild. This is
And
wild
we're not going to
society.
look back
Yes,
years later and go shoulda, coulda, woulda, because you're a different person now. You're at a different place now. And the girls coming up now have had the privilege of, as we're talking about, the privilege of learning from some of the mistakes that you made or that I made. We talked about this the other day with, breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Is just like the more you know. And honestly,
And the more we talk about it, we can just throw it out there to the girls and to the women, because women, like, say you're not going to have any more, you are just as important, because your language and your experience and just being able to talk about this and how we're going to discuss it with some of the younger girls and how we're going to talk about our bodies and how we're going to talk about breastfeeding and how we're going to carry the mom guilt, whether you were formula fed or you breastfed or whatever. Like, there's so much stigma around this. The more we talk about it and just decide, like, we are not participating in this continuous shame of how you chose to feed your child.
not participating.
I'm not participating. Exit.
Tapping out. Tapping
Mm-hmm.
out on that. But I mean, it's true that you had to have the pioneers that came before and had some of these experiences that were less than ideal. Let's
Yes.
put that in, air bunnies, less than ideal. Some were horrible. Some were like, but those are the women who paved the way. And if you're one of those women, which you are, if you're listening, because you've paved the way for someone in some regard, no matter what you've accomplished so far, please be nothing but proud of the experience, that what your pregnancy looked like, what your postpartum looked like, how your bounce back, whether it happened never or it took years or it's still an ongoing thing. All of that is part of you being a pioneer to set more appropriate standards for the women coming up, which are, hey, there is no bar to reach. There is only you, your health, and your mindset. And that is literally everything. And there's no one else in that conversation but you.
Yeah. Like, how are you going to do this in a way that feels good for you? Because, like, that's where I had to, like, peel back everything. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of noise, but what feels right and good for me? And how can I move forward in that way without all of these, like, restrictions?
I mean, sometimes it still feels like, whew, we got a long way to go. But
I know. I know.
if you're looking at it from a bird's eye, we really have come a long way. And so, thank you to all the pioneers listening, no matter if you've had a child, haven't had a child, if you've participated in diet culture, if you've never participated in it. Everything that you've done has paved the way for what we hope can be better conversations around all of the stigma surrounding women's bodies. And for that, we thank you.
We do thank you. Women's bodies, incredible places to live.
Incredible places. Also,
like,
could you
have
less?
to try and tear them down?
Could you?
Because they're so amazing, though.
Oh, so amazing.
You have to try and tear them down. Nothing
Maybe
can compare.
huge shifts in hormones. So could we do that?
Yeah, I
Like, no
know. I
sneezing, but, like, could we do it without, like, could we do it without tampons? I wanna say.
You know what?
Alright, we're not making requests. Alright. Damn
We're
it.
not making a request. We do want to talk to you guys about an important topic today, though. And I think you'll be very interested. I think a lot of people are looking for ways to maximize their time. We've talked about different ways to maximize your time, but we've seen an uptick in ADHD symptoms in our society and our inability to focus and our inability to get things that we want to get done, and then all of the shame following that, um with I don't have enough time, and it kind of creates this ongoing cycle of chaos, essentially, where you continuously feel like you're not getting enough done, but you're doing things all the time. And we want to give you some tools to be able to kind of give you ways to feel accomplished and to feel like you are checking things off your list and you are getting some things done, because you are.
Thank you for that lovely transition. We really went on quite a women's body tangent, which had a whole lot of very little to do with today's productivity episode. However, you transitioned that beautifully.
Thank you.
And I just want to, like, hands up, fully identify with the feeling of constant chaos, always doing something, and feeling as if at the end of the day we got very little done. I don't know a person living on this planet right now that can't identify in some way, shape, or form with one of those three feelings, if they're not all happening simultaneously. And if that sounds like you, first of all, you're everyone. And secondly, so much of that is environmental, but that does not mean that it's out of your control. And if you are interested in quieting the chaos, I have gotten so much from this. And I know that I'm a person that gravitates towards these kinds of things naturally because, like, I dig on organization, I dig on planning, I dig on timing. That is
You
something
love
that
structure.
I really love structure, like to a point where it's like maybe love structure less.
Yeah.
Maybe do because sometimes I take it to places, as anyone does with like their characteristics,
Their
whether
best
you call them a
things,
strength.
100%.
Half the time it's a strength, half the time it's a huge weakness. But I know that I gravitate toward this anyways. So I kind of thought when I first started it that it was something that was just going to work for me. But I'm telling you, the more I do it and the longer that, and the more research that I do and the longer that it's a part of my life, I have to tell everybody about this. It's so life-changing, and it isn't just for type A personalities at all. In fact, I really do think that this is a necessary implement, like a tool right now that every single person living on this planet needs because of this. Because we live in a world of distractions. No wonder everybody feels like they have ADHD right now, and there's a huge uptick in symptoms because
If
that's
you're only listening
environmental.
on Spotify, she's pointing to her phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm pointing to my phone. The fact that we have literally everything, a computer going around in our pockets, like access to every single part of the world and billions of people all at once, just walking around with us. Like, if you don't think that
Mind
we
blowing.
have to
Also.
change the way we structure ourselves with the inclusion of that in our life, like, you gotta have tools to combat that because that shit is wild. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. But you got to know, we are able to bring you this incredible content each week and talk to you about all of the pressing matters in health and fitness because of our successful TTSL workout program.
We have incredible coaches, movement demos, and just different cycles all the time. So we take the thinking out of your training every day.
If you would like to join us, please go to ttsldaily.com and pick out your package. You are going to love every day of fitness.
So I don't want to say we're behind on this because we learn as we go, and we've needed to know the effects of, having computers, having internet, having phones go everywhere with us, having social media, everything at our fingertips, with the constant striving for ease and comfort is what we're essentially constantly striving for, is comfort. And our phone provides that because you're comforted by the fact that you are able to contact anyone essentially at any time. You always have something to entertain you. You can buy anything. You can
get that
access
dopamine, girl.
Yeah. You can access your email. You can anything from work. You're constantly connected, and that gives us a form of comfort. And that's what, as humans, that's what we're striving for. We're looking for comfort, and historically that has been something that has been great for us. But with all of these technological advances, we've done the opposite of that, because our phones and the access has actually done the opposite for everyone. It's the same for many people, but the fact is like, just from a numbers perspective, anxiety rates, depression rates, and how anxious people are feeling around technology and social media. So it's not a question of if this is contributing to your anxiety. It is. And the fact that we are feeling this type of chaos in a faster paced environment, we're constantly looking for ways to distract ourselves. We've talked about this in other episodes, but we have to put tools in place that are going to work with the technologies that are around us, because just throwing it out the window is not feasible. It's not something you want to do. It's not something you're going to do. But there are ways that we can structure our lives to feel less chaotic and to be able to get the things done that we want to get done while incorporating a modern society.
I think one of my theories surrounding this is that it is going to be most beneficial for the people who are in that weird time frame where they grew up without phones. And then at some point, teens, 20s, 30s, like early 30s, like it was dropped in. And then it was just like, oh my God, like, because you were not raised with certain strategies surrounding this. I feel like it's like a big, it's one of those things where it's a generational shift, where it's like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for this, and I don't have any tools surrounding it. And what we want to talk about today is a really, really, really powerful tool that quiets that chaos, that tells you about the ways in which you can start and complete a task and feel like less, unaccomplished throughout the day. And my favorite part of it is it allows you to be present where you actually are. It doesn't the best thing that's happened to me since I started implementing this is that I don't run a to-do list in the back of my mind at all times. When I do that, it drives my anxiety through the roof. And I also am not experiencing where I actually am, because in my mind, I'm somewhere else, future or past. That's kind of the definition of anxiety. People, when they exhibit these symptoms, it's either future telling or they're living in the past. You're not in the present moment. And that happens to me a lot when I run to-do lists or think of things I haven't finished or all of these things. And this is a way that if you're looking to be more present in your life, I'm going to highly, highly suggest that you try this. Is there anyone that's not looking to be more present?
I don't think so. But I think that's a great point with the to-do list. And I just want to highlight that a little bit because there's a ton of memes about women falling as particularly women. And these are targeted. Like this isn't just me being a super feminist. It's about women running these constant to-do lists before they go to bed as they're falling asleep and building resentment for their partners or their husbands when they are
They just
falling
fall right
asleep.
asleep.
And you're thinking about, I got to bring this person. They're running these constant to-dos. This is a whole thing. And the resentment builds because you're looking at that motherfucker just falling right asleep and thinking like, are you not worried about all of these, worried or running your to-do list, or like, did you lock the door, did you do, you know what I'm saying, like running all of these lists, that exactly what you're talking about, these to-do lists. And this bleeds into your relationships because obviously resentment bleeds into any relationship, but we really have to be, I am a firm believer in this. You have to be proactive about things like this that you know that could come up, about resentments. Um, I've talked about this a lot with having a new baby in the house, being like, making sure that during the night we're both getting up this like a number of times, because I don't want to feel resentful to you, and I will if I'm getting up and you're just sleeping on through it and I'm exhausted. So let's make sure to head that off, because I don't want to look at you and be like, I'm gonna junk punch you in the middle of sleep. I don't want to feel that
I'm
way.
not going to say you're not going to do that. But I am going to say that that's an excellent idea, because taking the martyr route of the silent, I mean, I don't know
you don't
anybody
get
that's
a
worked for.
reward. You don't get a reward at the end for being a martyr.
No medals.
You don't get a reward for being the person who is going
Did
to be
everything.
running all the to-do lists. Well, I'm just running all of these. Like, cut it out. Let's put some things in place that actually are going to help you, and that they're going to help you feel less chaotic. They're going to help you feel more present, and they're going to help you feel more connected and less resentful to people around you, because you've been able to set these things up for yourself, and like in a very realistic way, without the martyr route.
Ooh, I love that. I don't like the martyr route. I'll
Me
tell you
neither.
what,
I
I've not always been there. I thought there was going to be some kind of cookie at the
Yeah.
end. There was going to be a
So I
large
have
crowd. A large crowd cheering you.
You did
Look at
it!
you. You did all of the birthday parties, got everyone gifts. Yay! They cheer, and then I like take slow bows. Yes, thank you. I'm the best. Thank you. I thought for a while.
Many women, that's why we've had to say
kept
it
coming out the room and going, "Where's the crowd? Where are they?"
Many women have fallen into this habit of, if I just keep doing this thing, and someone will notice what a martyr that I am, and eventually they're going to say, and then we have rewarded this behavior from a societal standpoint of like, who can be the biggest martyr?
Yeah.
And you're shameful if you're not.
No, I have less time.
But you're
than
actually
you. No,
happy.
I have less time than you. No,
This is it. I have less sleep.
Time. Yeah.
I have less. That it's all the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that must be nice because I just don't get to sleep. Well, then figure that out.
Figure that out. That sounds horrible.
Like,
first of all,
figure that out.
That sounds horrible. Do you want to maybe dedicate some time to thinking about how to change that? Because that doesn't sound good. But I'll tell you what's a really great way to get better sleep is to not go to sleep with that giant to-do list, to not have that buzz running in the background of what is all going to happen tomorrow. What do you need to do? What didn't you get accomplished today? I swear to God, people wake up at like 2 a.m. This is like a commonly reported thing. Wake up at 2 a.m. thinking about the thing that they didn't do during the day. And if any of this sounds like you, guys, do you want to know what it is? Do you want to know what we've been doing and trying out and what's been working so well? Okay. It's time blocking. Now, I hate that name because it's so boring and it's so type A. All the type A's were like, oh, I love it.
Time
And everyone else was like, shut
blocking.
up. I don't want a
Time.
time
I'm like
block. That
time
sounds
partying.
horrible.
Like
Yeah, time
a
partying.
time sparkle.
Let's
Like-
change it. Unicorn time.
I'm really good at that part. Like I'll add some spice to it.
No, really. Cayenne blocking. Like, no, it's because I know it sounds horrible, right? It sounds like another thing that belongs in your to-do list. Oh, now I have to time block. Oh, great. But I'm telling you guys, just call it something different. Unicorn sparkle. I don't care what you call it. It is literally the unicorn sparkle of your life that will help you to run so much more better. So I want to give some symptoms here, and I want to give an idea of like what kinds of people could benefit from this and how, because I think a lot of people are going to hear themselves. I heard myself in certain ones of these, and I also identified people that I know. Especially employees, because we work so closely on like task orientated things that I'm like, oh my God, like I can see where this person is losing time and losing stamina because of the chaos
and
of
feeling exhausted.
feeling so
essentially,
exhausted,
when
but
you're
having gotten nothing done. Like,
yes.
man, I didn't get anything done today. How am I so tired? All I've done all day is react. And that's person number one. If you find yourself in reactive mode constantly, like you're checking notifications as they come in, checking emails as they come in, immediately responding to people who are coming in, essentially, those are just called distractions, notifications, anything that falls into that category, that's called reactive mode. And this gives you an illusion. And I want to highlight that this is illusion of a never-ending to-do list. Because you are reacting constantly to things that are coming in, you feel as if you never get anything done, or you never get everything done. You're exhausted at the end of the day, but you haven't done anything. That's called reactive mode. And a lot of people do this in the world of constant notifications because it's so hard to not answer that text, check that Slack. What's my email? What's going on in my email? Who's trying to get a hold of me?
Quick interruption, guys, to tell you, did you get your New Year's stuff?
If you didn't get your New Year's stuff, what are you doing, girl? You're sleeping on it. We had the best New Year's drop, and it's everything you need to kick off your fitness in 2025 looking so good.
I just like a fresh start. Like I like a new fresh start, and to be able to get a wardrobe refresh, it always makes you feel good. Since we're talking about things that are going to help you in your everyday life, a little refresh is something that I just love.
There's no better motivator when it comes to the new year and the new fitness journey of 2025 than just a fresh new outfit. It's so good. It's so good. Plus, today is a very important day, and we got a little surprise drop for you. Can't tell you much about it. We're sworn to secrecy. We'll be killed. It'll be messy. You don't want that. But hit up the site today, afternoonish, and see what fresh gear we have for you, because a little surprise just for you.
Listen, the sounds, the lights, all of this is designed to make you check these things. The banners, they're all designed to be able to pull you in that direction, to be able to distract you. So I don't want you to feel like it's like, well, my willpower is so limited that I don't have the ability to turn that over, to not do it. It's the fact that this is designed bigger than you. To
people that study the brain built this around ways in which your brain works, and they literally marketed the entire thing to be able to properly distract you. I mean, people much
Absolutely.
smarter than us.
Yes. Like all of
So
these banners
nothing wrong
are
with you.
designed. 100%, they're designed to do it, but now we have to put something in place that protects us, right? So if something is designed to be able to pull you in a way that you don't want to, that is not serving you, then you need to put some of those barriers in place. I know that we're going to go through these, but I know that one of the things that has been like an ongoing joke for me is that I put my D&D on a lot. My do not disturb is currently on so that nothing lights up, because I know, as someone who, but this is what we're going to talk about, as someone who has lived with ADHD my entire life, right? I am very aware of my distractibility. So I've
You've had
built
to
in
be.
I've had to be, or else I couldn't function. So building in these tools has been something that has been basically like a lifelong training. And for a lot of people that had these distractions inserted at 15, 16, whatever, when you first got a phone. And it's only gotten better since then, right? But that's the first time you kind of like were inserted with all of these like really aggressive distractions that your brain has never been exposed to until then. And then we're just expected to kind of like figure it out.
You have no tools
No
because you
tools.
haven't needed them prior
Yes.
to that, right? Prior to that, when we were bored, we went and stared at a wall. Like,
Yeah.
was that like you haven't needed these tools, but now you do. And respecting that for what it is and saying, like, well, I'm going to address this now, even if the name of the technique is really stupid and boring. I'm going to call it unicorn sparkle, and I'm going to do it because this is something that I now need, whereas I hadn't needed before. And I do think that ADHD people are ADHD people. Your people.
My people.
I do think that they're much more adapted to these things because they have lived with them for so long. Whereas people new to this, I think that's why we're seeing the huge uptick in, oh my God, do I have ADHD? Because I'm distracted all of the time. And sometimes the answer to that is yes. And sometimes the answer to that is you are in an environment that doesn't allow for anything else. And you don't have any strategies to like to handle that at
Mitigate
all.
that. Yeah,
You really,
there's definitely a large discussion around this, and there seems to be two camps, as if there always are, but both can exist at the same time. There can be, a ton of people who have who do struggle with ADHD, who have been diagnosed in life and have seen this throughout their entire lives. But there can also be this level of distractibility and that is present all the time, that is constantly pulling us, that is not that you actually, like, your brain is wired in a different way. It's just the fact that you have so many other distractions going on that the symptoms can present as ADHD.
well, don't we allow that for all other mental health disorders? Don't
Right?
we
This can exist
say,
at the same time. You can be sad but don't have depression. Like these are like very like this happens all the time. Like you can feel anxious sometimes, you don't have anxiety. That like
but so
every other way, yes.
not only that, where you can feel the thing, but it's not a lifelong diagnosis, but also that things can be genetic and things can be
Yes.
environmental, right? So there are some people that are more genetically predisposed for a multitude of reasons to depression. And there are some people that an event triggers the depression. That would be environmental, right? So it's like a nature versus nurture thing. And I don't see why this would be any different. Just like you can be predisposed to being depressed genetically, you can be predisposed to ADHD, right? And then also an event can happen in which triggers a depression or or anxiety or whatever, a trauma. And from then on, you can say, I need help in this area because this thing has happened. I don't see how this is any different with distractibility. Maybe you suffered from this your whole life and you were undiagnosed. Maybe this is a newer thing that is because of environmental factors. It still is as disruptive to your life as if, right? Like we don't need to like say one's more than the other or whatever. It's just, this is disruptive to your life. So if you're a person that is in reactive mode constantly, I want you to use unicorn blocking. If you are a person, now I'm speaking to you right now, you, Kelsey, not you, my friends, you, Kelsey. If you are in a job that requires you to deal with unexpected requests during the day,
Mm-hmm.
you are a person that is going to significantly benefit from time blocking. If people are constantly coming at you, you're in a position of leadership and people are constantly coming at you with fires, and that breaks your ability to stay on task, this is going to be a game changer. If you are a person who has trouble with like the big picture thinking because you are always bogged down in like your menial tasks and you feel like you never have time to like back up and think of it, this is going to be a game changer. And lastly, and I think a lot of people are going to hear themselves in this, because every single video I watch on any, maybe I'm just being targeted. If you find yourself with many unfinished projects, you start something, everything's half done. You got distracted, you moved on to something else. Also, procrastinators fall into this category. And I'm going to explain in a minute the science behind procrastination, and you might actually give yourself a break when you hear this, because it is self-serving. Everything that your brain does is self-serving in some kind of way.
course.
It doesn't make any mistakes. But if you have a bunch of half-done tasks or you're a big procrastinator, this is going to be like your holy grail. I'm telling you.
100%. I have a really good example of a procrastination task that I had to sit back and think about, like, what is this big picture like meaning for me? Why am I keep putting
doing
this off? This is right. It was like a silly, like it felt almost like silly because it's important, and why am I not doing it? And I'm still not doing it. So I'm thinking about why I'm not doing it. Like, I could have been doing it during this time, then thinking about why I don't want to do it.
We all do this.
I wasn't packing my hospital bag, like in quotes, because I'm going to a birthing center, but my bag, which you're supposed to do. And why not? It's like I have the stuff. I came up with every excuse of why not. And then we talked about it in my house as it was still not done. And my aunt and Matt said, just because if you put the things in the bag doesn't mean that the baby's triggered to come. The baby can't see you putting the things in the bag.
I see what you're doing. You put the comfy pajamas in. That means
we're
it's
ready
time.
to go. Like, that's not what's gonna happen. And like you keep putting this off as if you're putting off the baby coming because you don't feel ready, but like that's not what's gonna happen. And for me in my brain, I was like, I totally am being like, well, we're not ready, so if I don't put the things in the bag, then, and like in the back of my mind I was like, well, contractions could start and I could pack it then. You know what I mean? Like, why do it now? Like, that's so silly, but like it was this, and it serves as this like procrastination thing where you're like, well, if I was put under pressure, I could get it done, right?
Okay, so I have to focus on that for a second because whether or not you know it, that is why you procrastinate. And people that say, well, I procrastinate because I work best under pressure. No, you don't. Let me just tell you why you are better under pressure, and why you procrastinate in the first place, because this has been studied. It actually has like a scientific name. It was first noticed, it was a woman actually, researcher, who was noticing that waiters at a restaurant were able to recall the orders of people who had unfinished bills easier than people who had checked out and had left. And that brought her into this whole line of research about what your brain is more likely to remember. Is that a finished task or an unfinished task? And as you can imagine, and this is a very good self-serving thing about your brain. Thank you, brain, for this one. Your
Yeah.
brain is up to 90 times more likely to remember an unfinished task than it is to remember a finished task. This has a name. It's called the Znarnik effect. And it occurs when an activity has been interrupted, and that makes it more readily recalled. So it's such a good thing, right? Because like, oh, good, I didn't finish this, and my brain is way more likely to remember it, which will make me finish it, right? However, we have
It is serving you.
it's serving you, but here's the thing. Here's why you procrastinate. Oh, and I wanted to say this too, is like, have you ever had someone, I don't know, me and Mark do this like on a daily basis because we work very close together and, you know, we're working towards a unified goal. We work at the same company. You know, what did you get done today? Crickets.
Yeah.
I can't remember a thing. I got so many things done today. I cannot remember. Surely I did not sit there staring at a wall for 8 hours. That's not what I did. I know I got some things done, but when I'm asked to recall them, I'm like, what did I get done? But if he ever says like, hey, what didn't get done today? What is oh, let me tell you. Oh my God, sit down. I have a
Yeah.
long list. I can remember all of the things that didn't get done. And I bet a bunch of people can relate to this. And this is why, you know, your brain is actually doing this on purpose. But if you want to explain procrastination, the memory levels, the activation levels of your memory are drastically higher for unfinished versus finished tasks. So people are procrastinating on purpose. Now, you're not doing this. Sometimes you're knowing that you're doing it. Sometimes you're like, "Oh shit, I'm really procrastinating this." Sometimes you're doing it unconsciously. Like, "Oh, I don't need to do that right now." It doesn't need to be right now. But it's staying on that mental load. And the reason why is if you purposefully leave it undone, you know you won't forget it. You understand this? Because you know that you, from your life experience, that you can name 100 things you didn't get done today and nothing you actually got done. So people will put their most important things on extreme procrastination, and they do this purposefully so they won't forget. And this is why you didn't pack your hospital bag. Or maybe you have now. Maybe you were tucked into it. Did you pack it?
I did.
Okay, good job. You know why you weren't packing it. I think it's unlikely that you thought in your rational brain that you packing it would mean the baby would come out right there. Like, great. Now I have this baby. What am I supposed to do? I didn't say that. I packed the bag. You came right out. Like, what the heck? I don't think you thought that. I think you thought this is extremely important and I don't want to forget it.
Yeah.
So I won't. And then unconsciously you said, so don't do it, because that's the way it'll stay on my mind. Isn't that weird?
It's so weird. And it's just, I think it's so frustrating for a lot of people. I know a lot of people are listening to this and feeling seen right now because they're going like, I have these really important tasks that I just keep putting off and I don't understand why, because they are important to me. And you're recognizing that they are important and you've even said it out loud, but you still don't do it. You don't do them. Why?
Why is because you don't want to forget them. You want to leave enough motivation to get them done. And you know that if you do them, the motivation won't be there the same. And that's why people say they work the best under pressure. Oh, I have to leave this to the last minute. Because I work best under extreme pressure. No, you don't. That's just when you're most motivated, because something can only be on your mind creating tension for so long before you like mentally get unstable, right? And so when
Yeah.
that point happens where like the mental load is so much that you're like, I have to unload this, you're so unbelievably motivated that yes, the task gets done extremely well. That's not working best under pressure. That's just the way in which you've tricked yourself to be motivated on something that has driven you so crazy, but didn't
And it's like,
need
could we
to.
avoid the driving me so crazy? Like, I
Yes.
sometimes when you get the thing done, right? And then you look back at how many times you thought about that, or, I had um said this recently about speaking to a vet about Harley, who is our friend, and all I need to do is text her. And it was literally, and I said out loud, I said, I think about her at least twice a day. Why?
That's a lot of
Like,
mental load.
that's a lot of mental load. Like, why are you consistently thinking about this thing that you could get done that you don't get done? And how
Because you
much
don't want to forget.
time from the time that you started being anxious about it to the probably weeks later when you got it done, could you have avoided all of that pain and suffering? I want to avoid the pain and suffering.
I do. I'll take less pain and suffering for 1,000,
fun,
Alex.
yeah.
But you have to understand why you're doing it, I think, in order to give yourself a break, because otherwise you just go down this path of like, I suck, I'm the worst. Or you go another route and you say like, no, I have to do it that way because that's the way I perform my best. Neither one of those are true.
Yes.
You don't suck, and that's not when you perform your best. You just need a better mousetrap. That's all. And if you don't like the feeling of running constant to-do lists or having those things in the back of your mind that you go, why don't I just get this done? It's bothering me so much. There is a better way. And I want to, I hope you guys are convinced that time blocking, or whatever you have decided to call it, that's way cooler than that.
Time sparkle.
Time sparkle is going to sparkle up your life so much.
Yeah.
But we need another episode to be able to explain to you how to do it. We just wanted to take a minute to just sort of lay out for you who you would be without all this procrastination and mental load, and what kind of person would benefit from this. And the idea is, at the end of this, once you've blocked this all out and once you have these tools in place, you can be present wherever you are. You do not run to-do lists in the background, and you feel less distracted when you are actually getting tasks done. You're not going to look around and see all these undone things or half-finished things. So,
well, it's an
that's
empowering thought, because there is a recognition surrounding where we're at with some of these things, and sometimes you have made steps or strides in some areas, but you haven't in others. And I really want to give you the workbook of how to be successful and how to get the things done that you want to get done, and lower those and lower that anxiety, and decrease those to-do lists that you are bringing to your sleep. Because we can talk about health and wellness all we want. We can talk about the importance of sleep. We can talk about the importance of, moving your body, the importance of eating and drinking. We can talk about all of those things. But essentially, it all comes down to making the time to complete them. So I really feel like a lot of these come back to, this idea, and how to put some of these tools in place and give you the workbook on how to make it happen.
It's going to be so much better. I'm telling you, like, single-handedly, one of the biggest changes in my life was time sparkling. So we have the workbook for you. We're going to tell you how to do it, how to get started, and we're going to do that for you in part 2. So join us for part 2 of time blocking, or whatever you want to call it. All my type A's are like, no, I love time blocking. I love it. Let's do that. Okay, type A's.
I already wrote it down.
I already wrote it down. And it's not, trust, it's not an actual workbook, but We have so many strategies for you guys, and it's going to be a game changer. So join us for part 2.